My turbo Honda S2000 build is back, and guys, it's been an absolute pain in the ass because if you look behind me, it's still not done, and I kind of want to talk about why it seems to be taking so long. This is actually a K24 turbo Honda S2000 that we had built probably about 2 years ago, and ever since swapping the F-Series out of the engine and putting a K24 in it, we've wanted to go with wider wheels and tires. We wanted to go with a wide body, not just because of the power, but also because it just looked like shit. This is probably one of the cheapest, harshest builds I've ever actually started with because the foundation of the car was pretty trashed. If you follow along since June 4th, which is when I actually shipped this car off, you'll remember that we were pulling tools out of the fenders. Dirt and rust was everywhere. We were cleaning everything we possibly could, and short of there actually being a terrarium inside one of these quarter panels, the car was never taken care of. So leading up to us taking the car over to Ray at MJ Collision Center, we tried working on the car ourselves.
What is that thing that you get when you accidentally cut yourself with tetanus? I have tetanus.
The car behind me, you'll see, has an APR S2 GT Widebody kit. And that has to do with the fact that once we started bolting the kit on, we immediately ran into problems. A lot of people think that wide bodies can essentially just be slapped on, and that if you spend more money on a kit, you won't have to do as much fabrication. Let me just kill that right there. That's not true. I've seen Liberty Walk kits go on Aventadors that need $60,000 and work being done to them for them to fit right. Now this is not that. This is just an APR wide body kit. This thing cost maybe $5 grand in total, but it quickly became clear to me that it wasn't perfect. You see, wide body kits come from a mold, meaning that as long as the mold is clean and everything was built right with the mold, you should be able to just mock it up and install it. But with this one, it didn't really put itself together the way that we were intending it to. In fact, the fenders were almost kind of kinked, not just so much that they didn't fit right, but it was almost like they pulled one direction and pushed another, which just made it impossible to line things up without putting an enormous amount of stress on the actual piece. So what does that have to do with MJ Collision Center? Well, that's a good question, because what it means is that we had to call in some experts. I called in Ray to see if he could help me with getting this thing put on right. Ray loves working on all of my cars.
His favorite car I've ever worked on.
He's worked on all of them. He loves all of them to death. And then 60 days went by and I still didn't really hear what was going on with the car until I just decided to bring it back. Now, you may think that I'm trying to put something out on Ray, and I'm not. MJ Collision Center is where I always go to get all of my cars done. In fact, the 430 is pretty much over there right now getting worked for Gatlinburg, and the Gloria will be right behind it. I love working with them. But something was amiss with working on this car, and it became very, very clear right out of the gate that it wasn't gonna go together like every other clean Honda S2000 build. The parts weren't fitting correctly, and the foundation was really wonky, which kind of brings me back to the beginning of this, because right as I started to lose faith in this build, guys, I didn't know whether I was even gonna finish it because it was being such a pain in the ass. It was at the same time Throttle had just released their wide body turbo S2000 build that they did in what seemed like 5 days. The car that they built was immaculate, it was perfect, it was gorgeous, and I love the boys over at Throttle, but holy shit, did it depress me just a little bit to see how fast they were moving in comparison to how slow mine was going. Now, Ray apparently needed a couple extra months to pretty much get everything tidied up and finished. So I asked Ray if we could bring it back.
It's definitely not how we envisioned it leaving, but
it's like a
done.
It may not be perfect, but at least we can do something with it. And if you look behind me, there's a couple things that we have to fix. The way the front bumper meets the fenders is all kind of hodgepodge together. If you take a look, the side skirts aren't even on because the clip of where it's supposed to mount up isn't actually flush with the side skirt of the car. This piece right here and where it mounts to has about a 1/4 inch gap, which is it's just silly sometimes, you know? And that's why I don't like wide bodies. I don't like working on them, I never have. But I do like the wheels and tires that we went with. So in case you're wondering, these are VR Forged D03Rs. These are 18x9 in the front and 18x10 in the rear. On the fronts, we have two 65/35 R18 Michelin Pilot Sport 4Ss, and on the back, we got two 85s back there. Now, I've told you that we are gonna do a time attack car, to which most people are pretty stoked, but those that are getting into it are like, Alex, that's not the right tire for time attack. And I'd say, you're gosh darn right, bud, because we still need to work out the kinks of the car, and I want to put it on some street tires so I can get some miles on it before we go into full time attack-ish. We'll probably swap the tires out by the time next year comes around. The thing that I am really proud of though is that when I was working with VR Forged on this, outside of the fact that it says MartiniWorks on there, which you can go and actually check out, a bunch of parts for your car over at MartiniWorks.com, it would mean a lot. But the special thing about this is that between the front and rear, I gained 180 millimeters of section width between the 4 tires, and this setup only weighs 1 pound more than the 17-inch counterparts that were 180 millimeters less in total track width, which is just nuts to me, which means we were able to get a ton more actual grip without actually adding any weight. So we're in the middle of like what would be called an M. Night Shyamalan movie, or at least that's kind of what it feels like with this car. Are we at the end or are we at the beginning? You never know, okay? It's feeling a little bit like Arrival, but my goal with this is to keep working on it, to get it back in front of you. But I do need your help because we are doing the roll cage. We do need new headlights. We do need new taillights. I have to get whatever the this is off the side mirrors. That is going to take way longer than I care to admit. But then we gotta decide if we're gonna wrap it or if we're gonna paint it. If we should just try to make the kit work, or should we go find another professional? Or should we just say f all and keep it looking like this? Because at the end of the day, it's still an absolute blast to drive. But that's where we're at. That is why the Honda S2000 Turbo Build has taken just a little bit longer than anticipated. Because before we can even go and put the car to its absolute limits, we gotta get a wide body kit that will actually fit flush and proper with it. That's no dig to APR. I totally understand this is just the way that wide body kits work, but don't be fooled that they can just be bolted on and they're just gonna fit perfectly every single time, especially when you look at how many components are on this kit compared to other ones. So with that being said, let me know what you guys wanna see in the comments. Please keep holding me accountable to showing you this car because this is the one build that I feel like y'all have absolutely loved. So I'm Alex, AlexMartini with 2 underscores on Instagram. We hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you want us to do with the car next. Maybe we'll take it to US Air. We'll see you later. Adios.